I'd like to thank the organizers of this particular conference, members of CIUS, for this extraordinary opportunity to reflect, to think, to be reacquainted with old friends and, of course, colleagues. Last night, I had an opportunity to go out with a number of fine folk from this conference, and among the coterie of friends, Bob Magochi, and he asked the question, which is, when did we meet last? And I said, well, at the 25th anniversary conference, of course. And he shook his head and he said, sort of, this is a periodic sort of occasion, and perhaps maybe we should avoid such sort of events. And I said, no. I said, no. I'm less skeptical than he about its relevance or importance. I think such conferences, in fact, are much needed. It forces us to think about the texts and contexts in light of the evidence and the challenge of ongoing change. Yesterday, I found the presentations both exhilarating yet daunting, with so many competing perspectives and voices. I walked away yesterday evening with a enriched understanding of the problem, quo vadis, but one that lacked clarity. I do not want to add to what is already an unclear storyline, but add to it I must. I will take my cue, however, from one of the questions we were asked to consider: how to ensure Ukrainian studies as a teaching endeavor survives. It's a question that CIUS has posed periodically, including almost from the start of its existence. In 1978, Bohdan Kordan, Captain Ukraine, produced a report on the state of affairs at Canadian universities, course offerings, enrollments, and the like. In 1983, while working at CIUS as a research associate, I was tasked with updating that report. The report, Ukrainian Studies Courses at Canadian Universities, Trends, Prospects, and Implications, conveyed a depressing picture. The numbers of programs, even at that time, were minuscule, the course offerings inadequate, and the enrollments vacillated wildly, but not unexpectedly, given the small numbers. I was hopeful, nevertheless, that Ukrainian studies could and would survive, if only because there was a healthy crop of academics committed to instruction in this area. I felt that as long as there were bodies, there was a future in Ukrainian studies, not a thriving future, but a future nonetheless. I could not have predicted, however, the public policy shift in advanced education that would occur in the last 2 decades or so, and its effect on post-secondary education. It was a policy shift that had as its goal increased institutional accountability in the age of public austerity, the consequence of which is the corporatization of universities and all that this entailed. We have seen as a result the introduction of enrollment, metrics and quotas, performance reviews, teaching assessments, mission vision statements, strategic and integrated planning documents, program evaluations, downsizing of faculty hires, tuition hikes, and the ballooning of administration ostensibly to help streamline the delivery and effectiveness of teaching programs. The consequence of this new direction is its profound effect on advanced education in general and Ukrainian studies in particular. We all know the story as it relates to Ukrainian studies. It is one that Professor Pilipiuk has eloquently described in a recent CAS Facebook post as it relates to developments here at the University of Alberta. At first blush, it seems unimaginable that this could occur at a place where Ukrainian studies historically excelled. But quite frankly, it is to be expected given the global dynamics at work. It is not just that Ukrainian studies has suffered, but with few exceptions, the entire humanities and social sciences. Faculty are not replaced. Courses are offered not on the basis of program necessity, but whether these attract large numbers of students and therefore generate revenue. Programs and even entire departments are being deleted. At the University of Saskatchewan, which I know best, discussions are ongoing about having modern languages consigned to the Division of Continuing Education as a community outreach activity. Political theory in the Department of Political Studies has been eliminated as one of 4 core competencies in the discipline, a result of a reduced faculty complement. A department of 13 is now a department of 8. This has led to a serious planning discussion at the departmental level about abandoning the MA program altogether. These are distressing developments, sadly pointing to the corrosive nature of the current reality, which affects not only Ukrainian studies, but also a great many programs. Ukrainian studies is not alone in its predicament. It is a shared predicament. And as a shared predicament, Ukrainian studies is now faced with competing for scarce faculty positions that are increasingly being defined in terms of program relevance. Faculty members are now hired on the basis of university and departmental priorities, which automatically precludes the possibility of hires with Ukrainian specialty. Such hires are not only considered exotic, but also non-vital. In a competitive environment, academics with a Ukrainian specialty are not a likely nor desirable choice. Philosophy, continental philosophy, the choice between Kant, Hegel, Marx, or Skovoroda and Lipinski. You know what the choice is going to be for those that bring that expertise to the discipline. The teaching situation at the University of Saskatchewan is especially disappointing because local demographics suggest that if Ukrainian studies was to survive and thrive, it should do so in Saskatoon, where census figures indicate that 1 in 10 individuals self-identify as Ukrainian. 1 in 10. The phrase that applies to New York, if I can make it here, I can make it anywhere, has equal billing, but in reverse when speaking of Ukrainian studies in Saskatoon. If you can't make it work here, you can't make it work anywhere. At least that is what we should conclude. But it's not an all bad news story. I'm not a consummate pessimist, as most of you are. If it were, I would simply declare that we should all get up and go home and that the last person leaving the room should turn off the lights. I believe that there are measures that can help address the challenges. The experience at the University of Saskatchewan helps illustrate what might be done. When I first arrived at the University of Saskatchewan in 1993, having already spent 10 years in Alberta, austerity cuts were well underway. Departments were undergoing 10% cuts to their budgets. In 1995, departments were instructed to set aside an additional 10% for college-wide special appointments to be made in areas of designated excellence. This was followed by an additional tax in 1997 and 1998. It was clear that traditional programs would not survive the assault, including Ukrainian studies. It was apparent that if a Ukrainian studies program were to continue at the University of Saskatchewan, it had to be reimagined on a number of fronts. First, it would require the creation of a Ukrainian Studies Center, the Prairie Centre for the Study of Ukrainian Heritage at St. Thomas More College in the University of Saskatchewan. Financially supported by the community, it would not be hostage at the programming level to the vagaries of administrative fiat. More importantly, the center would ensure that Ukrainian studies would survive in some format at the U of S, regardless of what happened. But it would also be there preparing for the inevitable demise and loss of Ukrainian studies at the university. This brings me to the second point. It was necessary to advocate for the reworking of Ukrainian studies program according to criteria that would recommend it. A program that would be innovative, effective, and sustainable. The PCUH, the Prairie Centre, made the case early on for a multidisciplinary program that 1, drew on existing resources, 2, would be attractive to students, and 3, remain flexible so that it could adapt to changing circumstances. The proposal met with resistance from those who were still committed to a traditional Ukrainian language and literature program and were prepared to fight a losing battle against senior administration. Without going into the particulars, the Ukrainian language and literature program was disbanded, faculty reassigned, and authority was subsequently granted to St. Thomas More College to create and offer a multidisciplinary minor in Ukrainian studies on the basis of the original proposal. Supported by 3 faculty who work under the umbrella of the Prairie Centre, the Ukrainian Studies minor that was created follows the great tradition of Ukrainian studies at the University of Saskatchewan, where in 1944, the first Ukrainian studies course in North America was offered. I will be the first, however, to admit that the situation is not an optimal arrangement. The Ukrainian studies degree, after all, is a minor. But this undertaking even in the limited format, has prevented Ukrainian studies from disappearing at the University of Saskatchewan as has happened elsewhere in Canada. It has also satisfied the objective of providing undergraduates with an opportunity to learn and study about Ukraine and the Ukrainian experience, albeit in this limited format. Enrollments are healthy, and the immediate future is at least stable. Circumstances, of course, may change, which invariably raises the question of uncertainty. Retirements occur, for instance. But it's precisely the existence of a Ukrainian Studies Center that guarantees that there will be replacements and potential jobs for future academics. As a functioning, self-sustaining unit that contributes to the scholarly and academic identity of the institution, there are compelling reasons for the center and the teaching program to be populated. This points to the strategic importance of creating centers, institutes, and chairs across the country. I'm reminded here of the important work that's being done at the University of Victoria. It can, in fact, become a permanent feature at the University of Victoria with community support and proper leadership. I know that there's currently an incumbent at a history position at the University of Brandon. That position could very well be turned into something larger than what it is currently with the proper support and leadership. Something that Manoli Lupul has alluded to several times. Centers, institutes, and chairs serve as backstops to teaching programs without which they could easily disappear. I would argue that the departure of the Sheptytsky Institute to St. Michael's University at the U of T is St. Paul's University's loss, but is also St. Michael's gain. Ukrainian studies, I believe, will disappear from the curriculum at St. Paul's University. The evidence is clear that centers matter, and chairs matter, that institutes matter. Who would dispute this, noting the importance of CIUS at the University of Alberta? Would Ukrainian studies be what it is in Edmonton without the CIUS? It is the catalyst for the historical growth and development of Ukrainian studies at the U of A, and although there are challenges, the presence of the CIUS assures us that these can be met with proper leadership and support. The PCUH has helped stabilize the Ukrainian Studies teaching program at the University of Saskatchewan. It's considerably less than what one would have hoped for. But even so, there's potential for more. I believe in this regard that it is necessary to think of alternatives and different possibilities as ways to provide a rich undergraduate experience that allows students to gain a better appreciation of Ukrainian culture and history while cultivating the next generation of graduate students and scholars. Specifically, what if the emphasis is not on teaching, but learning? Might not the same objectives be achieved? If so, then what needs to be done? The PCUH is involved in facilitating different learning experiences that has created energy and enthusiasm among undergrads and graduate students. The PCUH, for instance, offers partial financial support for a study abroad program in Ukraine. It also provides stipends to students to participate in this overseas experience. The center further allots an annual grant to the Ukrainian Students Association to conduct activities on campus that reinforces their understanding and appreciation of Ukrainian culture, history, and identity. In addition, the center, PCUH, supports and co-sponsors events that validates the organization and strengthens their collective sense of purpose. The association currently has 58 members, one of the largest university Ukrainian student groups in the country. Several have gone on recently to serve the community locally and at the national level. Learning comes in different formats, and it's incumbent on us to recognize the potential of each and to facilitate where we can. This is especially important at the graduate level, the next generation of potential scholars. The PCUH supports and offers opportunities where it can. Aside from traditional faculty supervision, the PCUH provides financial support for Ukrainian thesis topics, the body of work that will define the future research and scholarly orientation of these students. The center also organizes graduate seminars, roundtables, and facilitates and supports an exchange teaching program, which sees the placement of a U of S graduate student responsible for teaching in Ukraine. Graduate students are involved, as we heard this morning, in the center's various research projects, programs, and initiatives. These are opportunities that will define and potentially shape the next generation of scholars, without which their exposure to Ukrainian studies as a scholarly enterprise is greatly limited. But again, the emphasis is on learning and not exclusively teaching, allowing Ukrainian studies to be relevant in the lives of our students, but in other ways. This, however, is only possible because of the creative and innovative role that the PCUH has assumed for itself. The PCUH does not describe itself as a research center, nor a department, neither is it a teaching program. The PCUH is characterized as an academic unit at the University of Saskatchewan. It's an ambiguous description, purposely selected precisely because it seeks to do all of the above and more. It is an academic entity that is committed to research and the dissemination of findings conducted under its auspices, that supports the Ukrainian Studies teaching program, provides institutional and financial backing for student activities, facilitates and assists graduate work, and engages in community outreach so as to help the community validate its experience in a university setting. This, I believe, is the face of Ukrainian studies in the university, as well as the future. Change is afoot. The need to adapt and innovate has now become imperative. The role and importance of centers, institutes, and chairs cannot be underestimated. The issue, however, is to use these as platforms to reimagine and rethink how Ukrainian studies as a learning experience might be delivered under challenging and demanding circumstances. Thank you.